Imagine yourself in 1917. When on your doorstep, you receive a letter from the military saying you have to join up the army, get in the trenches. Well, it wasn't really our decision to get into the trenches, but rather it was our allies' choice. The fools didn't know it was coming. So we got on our bellies and ate dirt. Not literally, though. There are three reasons why trench warfare was a bad idea. Like, the living conditions were terrible, there was no escape from artillery fire, and there was hardly any progress to the war at all. First of all, let's look at the fact that living conditions were terrible. The living conditions in the trenches were terrible because our country couldn't supply our troops overseas. They never really did it before, like supplying our troops overseas, because they mostly fought on the home front. Men would be farther inland than anticipated. Anticipated. There we go. Some say that they would be like 10 miles away from the drop zone, when really they're either 15 miles or 20 miles away from the drop zone. So a lot of our guys had to make do with eating rats that were found in the trenches. The supplies such as food, clothes, and ammunition never made it, as most of you would probably know if I meant by supplies from our troops. The trenches were full of rats, so eat up. Also, our boys had to dig small rectangular holes, and those served as sleeping quarters. Men had nowhere else to sleep, and it would keep them out of the rain, because you're in the trenches, and you're in, like, Germany. There's rain almost every day. And man, would those trenches get muddy. Secondly, there was no escape from artillery fire. The artillery was basically trying to get a lucky shot into the trenches, because that's where the enemy was, and that's where we were. If one lucky hit does get inside of the trenches, you would see men wounded, limbs missing, and even scattered at your feet, little tiny pieces. Because the shells are coming at you at 100 miles per hour, and those things would be hit pretty hard. The only safe zone would be in the far end of the trenches, near the reserves. The reserves were placed at the rear of the trenches. Plus, the reserves were far, far away from the front lines, and that's where they were mostly getting pelted. Finally, there was hardly any progress to the war. The war was a stalemate, basically. We'd take their trenches, they would recapture them, they would capture ours, and then we would recapture them. The reason why we won the war was because we scared them. They didn't expect as many American troops as they had thought we would come. They underestimated us for our determination to win. Knowing what we know now, using trench warfare in World War I was not a good idea. Because living conditions were terrible, there was no escape from the artillery fire, and there was hardly any progress. Think about it. If you had a chance to go back in 1917 and join the World War, would you want to be in a trench? Or would you rather ended the war quicker by scaring the enemy? Just remember, if you're in a war, don't get in the trench.